September 2017, I would say, was a very memorable period for St. Kitts. We had the unique circumstances of two natural disasters, two hurricanes coming at the same time. Additionally, there were in fact some of the strongest to be recorded. I'm sure all of us would remember Maria, Hurricane Maria, followed and Hurricane Irma, both of which were Category 5 hurricanes, meaning that the wind speeds were like 150 miles and greater. That also had the impact of bringing torrential showers over a short period of time, 15 inches of more of rain in a short spell of time. We all know how very much those things devastated and impacted the Caribbean islands. And although St. Kitts may not have been the worst hit, we found that the agricultural sector in particular was heavily impacted. Overall, we suffered some $5 or so million in damages. There were losses, there were impacts to the soil, to the crops, and to livestock. A lot of cultivation go on at this time, and so those storms came at a time when the soil was recently manipulated and we lost a lot of topsoil. Topsoil is something that takes millions of years to be replenished, and it is what the farmers need to grow our crops if we're going to be successful. We lost quite a lot of that. Even where the soil was covered with plastic, the strong winds blew the plastic away and there was significant erosion. The natural vegetation also suffered. We could look around and we saw even now the trees are just recovering from the mangling and the tangling and all of the devastation. What was very noticeable though to the farmers, and which they felt in their pockets, was the damage to their business. Like in the crop sector, we lost and had damaged some 20 or so acres of bananas and planting, which amounted to a value of some $800,000. In the field, a lot of watermelons, tomatoes, sweet pepper, and most of the field crops, they really took a beating. The greenhouses, they were really shattered and mangled and rendered useless. And farmers really felt that impact. It really hit our farming industry hard. The livestock sector was no different. The poultry farmers, even now, they keep telling us about the measure of loss. We lost thousands of birds. We also lost roofs for pens and structures that house these animals. And once that happens, then there becomes like a ripple effect. Effect like whatever they have in storage would be lost, like feed, for example, equipment, medication, and that kind of thing. There were also indirect impacts. And I would refer to, for example, the incidence of the tropical bunting affecting animals. You find that the conditions then, meaning a lot of moisture and cool conditions, are conducive to the development of the tick, and so there was an intensification of the presence of the ticks. And once that happens, it means that the conditions of the animals are further debilitated, and so there are indirect impacts. And so overall, the hurricanes that came in September really dealt severe blow to the agricultural sector. It really, as it were, put us reeling, and we are seeking to do our very best to see how soon and how effective we can recover in the shortest possible time, especially recognizing that this period is usually our peak production period and the period when sales are also best going into the end of the year and early next year. I do trust that our public, farming, and general would understand our circumstances and work with us to the best of our abilities so that we can recover, so that we can get back on track and be able to do our part in terms of food availability, food sustainability, and nutritious and useful stuff on our plates.
We're here today because we are here to support Yellows, who is one of our consistent farmers. You've been someone who's been producing food for some time. and has, since he returned from overseas, made this one of his missions. And he is a great example to me of our farmer who puts his all in it, who takes care of his production, and who makes a living from it. Now, why we're here? We're here because the government has made a decision to assist farmers to get back on their feet. As Mr. James said earlier, we had significant loss. In fact, Mr. James said the loss was about more than $5 million. I will add, overall agricultural loss in the country was over 10 million. The farm upland crop loss was over 5 million. But we must not forget that we had fisheries that had loss. And then over in Nevis we had loss. So when the Prime Minister said over $10 million, he was speaking of the global figure. So don't let us get confused when you hear Mr. James say 5 million. This is just the crop loss. Now, as a result of the events of September, the farmers met with me in Molineux and in Foyes. And when I listened to their plight, I had to recognize that it is not easy to get what we call crop insurance. So that they can't go to an insurance company and say, well, we've got damage, and this is the value of the loss that we had, and they get a check from the insurance company. So that's one problem. And then of course, we've heard about FAO and AICA. They have come on board and said that they will help. But that is not happening overnight either. So, having discussed with the director, Mr. James, and the permanent secretary, I took the matter to the cabinet and said, look, the farmers need to be put back on their feet, not only for their own sakes, but for the sake of food security in the entire country. Because after all, the food that they produce is the food that we are all putting on our plates. Cabinet agreed. Cabinet agreed to two important things. One is to make sure that the roads towards their farm is restored. That is being worked on as we speak. But also, that where farmers can be assisted with seeds or inputs, that we see what we can do up to a certain point, up to the limit that we have, until such time as we get support from FAO or AICA or whoever else. So today, we're here to hand over to Mr. Yellows some inputs for his farm so that he can get back on his feet, so that we who sit around our table and smile when we're eating can enjoy that smile as we continue to eat. I want to thank you, Mr. Yellows, for all that you've been doing for farming.
Appreciate it.
And the example that you're setting for all of the young farmers around the place as well. And I trust that the contribution that we made to you will help you to get back on your feet quickly.
My name is Mr. Leon Anthony. Call me Yellows.
Yellows.
I have been the #1 farmer in Category 1 for 2016-2017. As you know, we felt that impact blow from Hurricane Maria and Hurricane Omar, which devastated our crops. I thank the minister to help us out with supplies so that we can start all over again and get food going in the country. Let us make food our #1 priority and #1 safety in St. Kitts and Nevis. So I'm asking the minister to keep on helping the farmers in whatever little or great he can. I would like the day when I could hear from the primary school to the high school college, students are saying, I want to be a farmer, not a lawyer. Let us keep food safety #1 priority in St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank you very much.
Food security is our responsibility. That has been our theme and will continue to be our theme. We, as a nation, we look at food as not a necessity, but as a right for each and every individual. We will always be faced with natural disasters. pests, diseases. A lot of things gonna affect our production. But we are a resilient people, and we will always come out on top with the help of Almighty God, with the help of the resources that He has given unto us. Government will always show its commitment to its people. And one of the main ways to do that is to ensure that the conditions are right for the production of food. As we see today, that commitment is shown in a tangible way with inputs. You're putting back in what is needed so that the production can move forward to ensure that that responsibility of food security is met. I appeal to the farmers to continue doing a great job that you are doing. You are important. I always say the farmer is the most important because everyone must eat. But we cannot eat unless there's food. Hail to our farmers, hail to all our stakeholders, and let us continue to work together. Support local, eat local, and let us continue to make food security our top priority.